Hi, and welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink and a snack, and we will get started. Today, I have my old standby English breakfast tea, and I have some homemade Chex Mix. So let's get real. I had one of those weeks where you have an aha moment. So I am a proud mom of a daughter who just got her permit to drive. So if you're not in the United States, or I don't, maybe it's different in every state, but at 15 in Minnesota, you can take a test and drive, and then you get lessons, and then eventually at 16, you take another test to have a license to drive. So my daughter went to all the classes and passed her test, and we're super proud of her. And because I'm the kind of mom that I am, I knew that we would go driving if she passed right away. So I have been the kind of mom that has pushed her out of her comfort zone her entire life. That has kind of been my role in her life, is pushing her beyond her comfort zone. Some days she loves that I've done it, and other days she's like, stop, I just want to be comfortable. So, since my husband will not get behind the wheel with her, I decided that I would take her out. So, I took my daughter to a parking lot because that's what you're supposed to do. So, I bring her to a parking lot. Now, I would like to say she's a very intelligent girl, but she has never been behind a steering wheel other than one time I let her drive around in a parking lot. Other than that, she has never been behind a steering wheel, never been behind a go-kart, never been behind a lawnmower, like driving lawnmower. She has never, ever just driven anything. So this is really her first experience in the car. And so I give her the keys and sit down. I take a couple pictures because that's who I am. And her first question was to me, now this is the gas, right? And I'm like, nope, that's the brake. So I know it's gonna be interesting. So we are driving around a parking lot. Now it's not a very big parking lot. It's probably smaller than I should have chosen, but we're driving around this parking lot, and I believe we went around their parking lot maybe 4 times. Maybe 5 if I'm like being super generous. And at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, yawn, this is boring, let's do something else. See, you already hear it coming, right? You're like, Jenny, be okay with the parking lot. But of course, I'm the mom who pushes her baby out of the nest. And I'm like, you know what? I know that you're super fearful of driving. Something that she's been kind of intimidated by. It's a big vehicle. They talked about defensive driving. It's this whole thing. And I'm like, it's really not that hard. Like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So we are sitting about to turn on the road. And it is not a super busy road, but it is still a road in the Twin Cities. So there are people. That's just the way it is. We're not in the middle of nowhere. We are where their people are. So I tell her we're going to take a right. And maybe I should have been more clear about the difference between right and left are, because she was overwhelmed. And long story short, we end up in the middle of the road, parked. Because I was yelling, she was screaming, it became a whole thing, and eventually we are sitting in the middle of the road, parked, with cars about to come in both directions. And eventually we get our lives together, and I say, put your foot on the brake, put it in reverse, and we reversed back into the parking lot. Now, at this moment, I had a decision to make, right? So I'm sitting here, and I'm the mom who's like, go for it, let's try it. Yeah, you're uncomfortable, but you're going to be okay. I know you don't like to talk in front of people, so we're going to put you in front of people. You're intimidated by being in front with a microphone. We're going to put a microphone in your hand. You feel like, and you feel like you don't want people to read what you're writing, we're going to put what you write into a book. Like, I am just, let's do this. We're not going to be afraid of anything, because I just don't want her to have the fears that I've always had all my life. So I have a choice. We are sitting in the parking lot again. We're currently break. Everything's parked. Do I say, okay, that was great, and change, and I drive home, or do I let her drive home? What is the decision? Yes, you guessed it. I let her drive home. And honestly, we were about 3 to 5 miles away from home, side roads the whole way home. And she did a great job. She really did. She did a fabulous job. She turned the right way. Trying to stay between the lines was something that was brand new to her. Obviously, she'd never driven before. First time ever at a stop sign. Sometimes we stopped a little harder than I wanted to. Other times, and most of the drive, I'm like, Sam, go faster. Sam, go faster. And then I'd be like, Sam, slow down, use the brakes, slow down. Sam, stop. Needless to say, both of our hearts were pounding the entire time. I came home and I was shaking like a leaf. Not because she wasn't good, but really because I am not in a car with an extra little brake on my side, and I could not take control of that going around a parked car. Didn't realize, oh yeah, that's something you have to learn. How do you go around a parked car when you can't go into the other lane and there's a parked car and there's really not enough room for you, and how do you do that and how do you navigate that? It was a lot of new things probably for me as I sat there with my first time ever driver. I honestly had a blast. She maybe didn't have as much fun because Mom was a little more vocal than I think she was ready for. And she's pretty excited to go with her uncle, who wants to teach her how to drive and has since she was born. Like, I'm going to teach her how to drive. And I'm like, you know what? Good. You can teach her. But as I was thinking about my next podcast, I had to come on and share this story because I really feel like this is our real everyday lives. Not that all of you are dealing with 15-year-olds and it's their first time in a car and you think, let's just put her on a road instead of driving around the parking lot till she's actually comfortable. That would be my suggestion to anyone that ever does this. Stay in the parking lot. It's okay. It's fine. Stay in that comfort zone. Don't push him out of the nest. It's sometimes too early. We made it home. She parked the car. She did great. Next time we're going to a parking lot. But we are so often in this situation in our lives. Our lives feel completely out of our control. Most of the anxiety and adrenaline that was pumping through my body as she was driving was that I had no control over how fast we were going, how slow we were going, whether we would hit a car. It was complete and utter reliance that she was listening to the words that I was saying. I had no control. And we live our lives some days like that, right? We have days and months and years that things are outside of our control. Our finances are outside of our control. Something going on at our job, a relationship. There are so many things that we could go into that are outside of our control. And it is scary. It is just, there's just no other word for it. It is downright petrifying to not have control. And I love that as I was thinking about this, that God reminded me again that I am not in life a passenger of someone that doesn't know what they're doing. The driver of my life is God. He is the one driving, even though I have no control and things feel like they're out of control because I'm not the one on the steering wheel. I'm very hesitant to say this, but I love the song Jesus Take the Wheel. Now, I realize that I've just kind of lost several of you, but I really love the idea of sometimes you just have to let go of that steering wheel and go, God, I need you to take control here because what I'm doing is not working. And that is how I sometimes feel. I have two things that I really struggle with when it comes to control. Let's just be honest. One of them is when things are out of control, I just want to take that wheel and I want to control it. And I want to say, you know what? Things are not going the way that I think they should, so I'm going to get in charge. I'm taking charge. Everybody back up. Fine, I'm doing this. Right? Have you ever been in those situations where you're like, okay, all you people have no idea what you're doing. Just let me do it. Step aside, right? When you're teaching someone how to cook or you're teaching someone how to clean, sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself. Sometimes at work, I was like, it's just easier for me to do it than teach you, right? And not yesterday, but when I took my daughter out to drive, I realized I could not take over. I needed to allow her to have control herself. Because until she believes in herself, there's no way that she's going to be able to progress and become better at it. If I continually say, you know what, sorry, you didn't do good enough, I'm going to do this now, she's never going to be able to progress and learn. And we need to remember that for those people around us. And we need to remember that for our relationship with God. Because we can get to the point that we just take everything and say, God, I'm just going to do this. And it says in the Bible that the Lord's yoke is easy and his burden is light. And we so often take it back from him and say, you know what, this was not as easy as I wanted. And so we're like, I will take control back. And I'll let you know when you can get back involved, God. I'll get it back on track and then you can, I'll get us out of the parking lot and it'll be fine. And the Lord wants to be in control all the time because he loves you. I talked about that in my last podcast, and that obviously is something I'm struggling with because I'm sharing it again. But the God of the universe is in control of that car. And even though you do not see it in your current circumstance and you feel like you're on the roller coaster that we call life, and you're going, I do not know what's about to happen, I want you to remember that God's in control and that he loves you. And if you are in a situation that you've taken the steering wheel and kind of gone on your own path, it's time to come back to the easy yoke and the easy burden and say, Lord, I'm going to give it back to you because I've taken control for too long. Well, that is all I have for you today. I hope that you all have a great driving experience and are not in a car with a new 15-year-old driver as they progress and they learn. And we allow people around us to learn and grow by their own mistakes and try to give up some control this week. I'm going to try to. In fact, I'm going to take her out driving again, and we're going to the parking lots. But God wants to be in control, and I'm super excited for you when you allow him to take the wheel. You can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram and on Facebook. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. All of my info is there. I would love to connect with you and see what kind of things you've had to hand over to the Lord. What kind of things you've taken control and you need to pass on, and what things you need to understand that God is fully in love with who you are and has a handle on the circumstances of your life. You have a great week.